Hi, everyone. So today I'm going to demonstrate some exercises that I typically do with my patients who have pelvic floor dysfunction, especially if they have weakness. And so I'm going to call this isolation to integration, and we're going to start on our backs. So if you want to get on your back on your mat or wherever you are, lie down in a comfortable position with your feet flat and your knees bent. First, we're going to tune into your breathing. So place a hand on the upper belly, just below the rib cage, and then place a hand on your lower belly, just above your pubic bone, and start to breathe into the upper hand, to that area, through the nose. So we'll inhale, and we'll exhale. See if you can feel the movement of the upper belly, the movement of the rib cage out to the side. As you calmly breathe in and breathe out. And take your lower hand and place it over the sternum, just above your breast. And feel the lower hand move on the inhale. Then the upper hand moves. And then on the reverse, both hands will move back down. So we're keeping the breath in the upper belly, the rib cage moving laterally, and then the sternum also moving up towards the ceiling. And do that a couple more times, just sort of noticing the breath, trying to breathe in and breathe out through the nose. And then on your next exhale, I'm going to invite you to contract your pelvic floor, but we're going to take our hands now away from the chest and bring it down just inside the bones of the pelvis. And we're going to take a breath in just like we've been doing. And then on the exhale, we're going to gently tighten the pelvic floor, feeling that upward movement of the pelvic floor. And then noticing that the fingers are moving together sort of in a cinching way. So we'll inhale to release that. And we'll exhale, gently squeeze and lift the pelvic floor. We'll go one more time, breathing in. And breathing out. Now that you've felt the movement of the pelvic floor and those deep abdominals, and you feel comfortable with the breathing occurring the way we want it to, then we're going to add some movements onto the pelvic floor. So that's where we start to integrate that pelvic floor contraction into a movement of the arms and the legs. So we'll start with the arms. It's typically a little bit easier. Then we'll take a breath in. We'll breathe out and gently squeeze the pelvic floor. And once we get that contraction, we'll bring the arms up and we'll bring the arms down. And then we relax the pelvic floor. Let's try that again. Breathing in, breathing out, tighten pelvic floor, lift the arms up, and bring the arms back down. Keep the pelvic floor nice and tight throughout the contraction, throughout the movement, and then release. And we'll go one more time. Breathe in, breathe out, and squeeze the pelvic floor. Bring the arms up, and bring the arms down. And then release. Now you're welcome to use some hand weights with that as well when you do this on your own. We're going to now do some leg movements. So once you've tightened the pelvic floor, I'm going to have you bring your right knee up and down, and then your left knee up and down. And you can keep your hands flat on the floor for this. So take a breath in, breathe out, squeeze your pelvic floor, and just start to bring the right knee up and down, left knee up and down, and then release. Let's try it again. This time we're going to do more than one march on each side so we can start working on the endurance of the pelvic floor muscles. So breathe in, breathe out and squeeze, and up and down, keep it tight, up and down, keep everything drawn up and in as you move your legs, and up and down, release. Now you notice probably that you had to grab a little air there, and that's perfectly fine. When we take those little quick breaths in while we're holding the pelvic floor, we notice that the movement of the breath is going to be a little bit different, and it's going to occur a little bit higher up in the chest. So let's try that one more time. Take a breath in, breathe out, squeeze your pelvic floor, and move. And again, you can, working on the endurance, you can keep your legs moving maybe 2 times on each side, and maybe you even want to go 3 times on each side. When you feel like you have lost the contraction of the pelvic floor, then you can stop and release. Now we're going to move the opposite arm and leg, sort of like a little bit of a running man if we were standing up. So we're going to take a breath in, breathe out, squeeze the pelvic floor, and lift the right arm with the left knee. Keep everything nice and tight. Move the left arm with the right knee. Keep everything nice and tight, and then release when you get down. Let's try that again. Breathing in. Breathe out. Tighten pelvic floor. Bring the right arm and the left knee up and down. Bring the left arm and the right knee up and down, and keep it tight as we go another round on each side, if that feels comfortable to you, and come back down. Good. So the next exercise we're going to do is called a bridge. So from the bridge, we're going to keep our feet about hip distance apart. The feet, the knees, and the hips are all pretty much in the same alignment. We're going to try to lock down our shoulder blades a little bit. So we're really pressing down with our shoulder blades, and that's going to really help with some of you who are doing some postural exercises. And from here, we're going to take a breath in. We're going to breathe out. We're going to tighten the pelvic floor and then lift up the hips. From here, let's take a breath in at the top, and we'll exhale, tighten, and move back down. There's several different ways to do the breathing with the bridge. This time we're going to exhale the whole way up and down. So take a breath in, breathe out, squeeze the pelvic floor, lift up, keep everything nice and tight, come back down, and when you get down, you can release. And then let's try this one more time. Breathing in, breathing out, locking down the shoulders, squeeze the pelvic floor and lift. And this time up in the bridge, see if you can hold the bridge, hold the pelvic floor tight, maybe for 10 seconds, maybe for 20 seconds, and see if you can work on the endurance of those pelvic floor muscles. And then when you're ready to come down, we'll bring the hips down, bring the pelvis down, and then we'll relax the pelvic floor. So if you've been following along, sometimes it's good to just kind of take your knees into your chest now and stretch out your lower back. When we do work our pelvic floor, we're working our deep abdominal muscles, and that tends to pull on our backs and can make our backs feel pretty stiff. And so just bringing your knees in, maybe making some knee circles, maybe just shifting your weight from side to side would feel pretty good. All right, so bringing your feet back down, feet are flat. We're going to go into a pelvic tilt and a little bit of a head lift. So from here, take your breath in, breathe out, squeeze your pelvic floor, and go ahead and try to flatten your back out into the mat. And you're bringing this pubic bone in front towards the breastbone. And then inhale to release that. Exhale, squeeze and flatten the back. Bring the pubic bone to breastbone. You can feel those bigger abdominal muscles kick in to do this movement. Inhale to release. Exhale to squeeze. It's another really great exercise to do after you've done the bridging. It stretches out those low back muscles. So let's go 2 more times. Inhale. Squeeze and exhale. And inhale. And squeeze and exhale. Getting that pelvic floor muscle to squeeze before the movement happens. And then coming back to a neutral spine, we're going to take this a little bit further. I'm going to have you cross your arms over your chest here. And we're going to do a little bit of a head lift. And I want you to be thinking about, we're going to go into the pelvic tilt first, and then we're going to take the sternum here and bring it towards the pubic bone. In the pelvic tilt, we brought the pubic bone towards the sternum. Now we're going to do that first, and then we're going to bring the sternum towards the pubic bone and really kind of get a little bit of shortening in the front of the body here. So arms across the chest, take your breath in. Breathe out, squeeze your pelvic floor, rock back into the pelvic tilt, and then raise your sternum towards your pubic bone. And then come back down and release. Let's try that again. So take a breath in, breathe out, squeeze, tilt, and lift. Back down, release. Again, breathe in, breathe out, squeeze, tilt, and lift. And come back down. And release. Now, many of you may have learned a different position for your hands, and you can certainly put your hands behind your head or behind your neck, or you can leave your arms straight out. We did it with the arms crossed, so you can choose that for yourself. So now we're going to get over on hands and knees. So take your time just rolling over, getting into what we call a tabletop position. In this position, we want to try to find that neutral spine by maybe playing around a little bit with a pelvic tilt, moving our hips just a little bit, and coming to where we feel like we're pretty much have a little bit of a anterior tilt in the pelvis. So we're going to practice the breathing again here, and notice that the belly is going to move down towards the mat on the inhale. And then on the exhale, see if you can squeeze the pelvic floor. And notice that the belly lifts up away from the mat. You'll also feel the breath around to the back of the ribs here a little bit better and to the side. So inhale. Exhale, gently squeeze your pelvic floor. And inhale. Exhale and squeeze. So now we're going to integrate a little bit of a movement of the arms. I'm going to keep my arms really close to my center of gravity. If we did something else, or if you're more familiar with a longer lever arm with your arms straight and lifting over your head, you can certainly do that. The important thing is that you're getting that isolation of the pelvic floor and deep abdominals first before you move. So take a breath in, breath out and tighten your pelvic floor, and then see if you can lift up just one hand, 5 inches, and then bring it back down. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So take a breath in, breathe out, squeeze, and lift up your left hand about the same amount. Okay. Take a breath in, breathe out and squeeze, lift up the right hand, Notice the effort of your left shoulder blade and see if you can really stay strong through that left arm. Take a breath in, breathe out and squeeze, lift the left arm. And come back down. And then we'll go one more time. Take a breath in, breathe out and squeeze. Right hand comes up, down. Take a breath in, breathe out and squeeze. Left hand comes up and down. We're going to now move the legs a little bit. I'm moving up a little bit on my mat, so I have room to move. So we're going to take the breath in. On the exhale, we're going to tighten the pelvic floor and just slide the right leg back first and get a nice little stretch into your heel cords. And then when you're ready, when the other three limbs are ready to be super strong and supportive, tighten up that pelvic floor and lift just the heel. Now, when we get the foot up, we want to remember that there's a little bit of that tucking down of the pelvis so that we don't sag in our low back. So think about drawing the pubic bone in the front down towards the mat as the leg lifts to the back. And then lower the leg and bring it back. You can shift your hips from side to side. Take a breath in. Breathe out and squeeze. Slide the left leg back, power up the other three limbs, tighten up the pelvic floor, and lift that left heel up, keeping the pubic bone pulled down towards the mat to get the glutes to work a little bit harder and to keep from using the back extensors too much. One more breath here. And then bring the knee down. Shift your hips from side to side. We'll go one more time. Take a breath in. Breathe out and squeeze. Right leg goes back. Lift it up. Pelvic floor is tight. Hold that. And then when we're ready, we'll bring it down. And one more time on the left, breathe in, breathe out, squeeze, left leg back, keep the pelvic floor tight, lift the left heel up, pubic bone draws down, glutes are working really hard here. Take one more breath, and then we'll bring the leg down and we'll shift from side to side. I'm going to sit back on my heels for just a minute. You may need to as well. Just to kind of stretch the shoulders out and give them a little bit of a break. Sometimes our wrists get really sore doing this. So you can make some circles with your wrist, one direction and then the other. Now we're going to do a little bit of a gliding back and forth. So I like to tuck the toes under for this one. And you get a little bit of a stretch of your arch. And I like to start with the hands a little more in front of the shoulders so we have some place to move. We're going to inhale back with our hips. And then on the exhale, tighten that pelvic floor muscle or muscles and come forward. Keep it all tight until your shoulders come to rest right over your wrist. And then we're going to inhale to release the pelvic floor. Feel some spaciousness between the sit bones there. On the exhale, draw up the pelvic floor and come forward. Forward, come forward. Shoulders are over the wrists. Inhale again. Bringing your hips back. Exhale, gently squeeze, come forward. And for those of you who are ready, this is a great time to transition into a plank by lifting one knee and then lifting the other knee. Hold the plank as long as you wish. And you can go down both knees and come back into your child's pose. Give your wrists a little bit of TLC. Do one more exercise on all fours. And this one is going to be the hardest one we've done yet. We're going to lift up the right leg with the left arm. And again, I'm going to keep my lever arm really short by keeping my hands right under my shoulder, but you're welcome to do a longer lever arm by reaching the arm straight up or out to the side, whichever one you're most familiar with. So take your breath in, breathe out and squeeze. We're going to bring the right leg back, lift the heel, and then lift up the left hand. So the right arm is doing a lot of work here. The left leg is doing a lot of work here. You're trying to stay balanced in the center. And then lower your hand down, lower your foot down, bring the knee back, shift from side to side. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So take a breath in, breathe out and squeeze. Slide the left leg back. Heel comes up. Remember to draw that pubic bone down so you don't let your back sag. And once you get that lifted, then lift up the right arm. Notice how your breath changes here. And then when you're ready, lower the right arm, lower the left leg, bring it back. And we're going to sit back for a child's pose. And child's pose is just a great time to reconnect with your breath. You can place your hands on your forehead. See if you can allow your buttocks to get really heavy as it reaches down towards the legs, towards the heels. And if your legs are like mine and partially blocking your tummy, then you're going to really feel that breathing into the back of the ribs. We'll breathe in.